In 2019, a family in Ohio moved into a house that was priced almost 40% below everything else in the neighborhood. Nobody warned them why. By the end of their first month, they'd be packing their car in the middle of the night, and they would never step foot inside that house again. This is their story, and like always, I've changed the names, but everything else is exactly how it was described to me. If you're new here, this is Black Stories, and every week we cover real, unexplained accounts sent in by people who lived through them. Subscribe now so you don't miss the next one. Trust me, you'll want to. Let's get into it. Daniel Foster was 34. He worked in finance, married to his college sweetheart, Claire, and they had one son, Ethan, who was 7 at the time. When Daniel's company offered him a promotion that came with a relocation package, it felt like a win. New town, better school district, more space. The kind of move every young family dreams about. The only problem, the housing market in their new town was brutal. Every decent place was $50,000-$60,000 over asking, cash offers only, bidding wars on a 3-bedroom rancher. They were getting priced out fast. Then their realtor sent them a listing that didn't make sense. A large, colonial-style house at the very end of a quiet street called Miller Road, nearly twice the size of anything else they'd looked at, listed almost 40% under market value. Claire actually laughed when she saw the price. That has to be a typo. It wasn't. They toured the house that same weekend. It needed some cosmetic work, old carpet, a dated kitchen, but structurally, the inspector said it was solid. Good bones, he called it. Claire remembers standing in the front hallway, and for reasons she couldn't explain, she just felt uneasy. Not scared exactly, just watched. She mentioned it to Daniel in the car afterward. It's a big empty house, he told her. Of course it feels weird right now. Wait till it's full of our stuff, our noise. It'll feel like home in a week. A week later, they signed the paperwork. On move-in day, while boxes were still stacked in the driveway, an older woman from across the street walked over. Her name was Margaret. She'd lived on Miller Road for almost 40 years, longer than anyone else on the block. She welcomed them with a plate of cookies and small talk about the neighborhood. But when her eyes drifted toward the house behind them, Claire noticed her expression change, just for a second. "You two are brave," Margaret said, half laughing it off. "Why's that?" Claire asked. Margaret waved a hand like she was brushing away a fly. "Oh, nothing. Old houses. They've got their quirks." Then she said goodbye a little faster than she'd arrived. Daniel didn't think twice about it. Claire couldn't stop thinking about it for days. The first night, nothing happened. Or at least, nothing they noticed. Ethan picked his room immediately, the one at the end of the upstairs hall, with a window that looked out over the backyard. Around 2 a.m., Claire woke up to the sound of footsteps in the hallway. Slow, even, deliberate. She woke Daniel up. He listened for a second, shrugged, and said, "Old house. Floors settle at night. Go back to sleep." She didn't sleep the rest of that night. Over the next 2 weeks, small things started happening that were easy to explain away individually, but hard to ignore altogether. Claire kept finding a kitchen chair pulled a few inches from the table, every single morning, no matter how many times she pushed it back in the night before. She heard humming, a child's voice, faint, coming from somewhere in the house, on 2 separate afternoons when both Daniel and Ethan were outside in the yard. And one morning, she found a small trail of muddy footprints leading from the back door to the bottom of the staircase. Kid-sized, way too small for anyone in their house. She cleaned them up before Daniel got home. She didn't want to try to explain something she couldn't even explain to herself. Then there was Ethan. Claire started noticing he was talking to someone in his room when he was supposedly alone. At first she chalked it up to a normal kid thing, an imaginary friend, nothing more. One afternoon she asked him, "Hey bud, who are you talking to in there?" Ethan looked up like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "Her name's Sarah, Mom. She lives here too." Claire felt her stomach drop. "Ethan, it's just us in this house." "No it's not," he said simply. "You just can't see her." A few nights later, Claire walked past his door and saw 2 shadows moving across the wall inside his room, like 2 kids playing a game together. When she opened the door, Ethan was alone in bed, fast asleep. One night, Daniel woke up and Ethan's bed was empty. He found him standing at the top of the staircase, completely still, staring down into the dark. Ethan, his son, turned around slowly. His eyes looked distant, glassy, like he'd just been shaken awake from somewhere far away. "Sarah wanted to show me something," Ethan mumbled. "But I got scared." Daniel carried him back to bed and told himself it was just sleepwalking. Kids sleepwalk. That's all this was. He checked on him 3 more times before the sun came up. A few days after that, Daniel was clearing out the attic and found an old wooden trunk shoved into a corner. Inside, old linens, a couple of paperback books, and a photograph in a cracked frame. The photo showed a family standing in front of this exact house: a mom, a dad, and a little girl who looked to be about Ethan's age. On the back, someone had written, "Our home, 1961. The next day, on his lunch break, Daniel drove to the town's public records office and asked about the house's history. The woman at the counter got quiet for a second before answering. "That place belonged to the Whitfield family, years back," she said. "Their little girl, Sarah, drowned in the old well behind the property. She was 7. Family moved out within the year. House has changed hands a bunch of times since then, but nobody ever stays long." Daniel felt the blood drain out of his face. The girl Ethan had been talking to, her name was Sarah. He thought about Margaret, the way her smile had slipped, right there on the driveway, on their very first day. That night, Daniel decided they were leaving in the morning. No more waiting. But when he went to tell Claire, she wasn't in their room. He searched the house calling her name, and found Ethan sitting calmly on his bed. "Ethan, where's your mom?" Ethan pointed at the window. "She went outside with Sarah. Sarah said she misses her mommy." Daniel ran downstairs and out the back door, toward the old well at the edge of the yard, a well that had been sealed shut since the day they moved in. Tonight, the cover was shoved aside. He looked down and saw Claire standing at the bottom, near the waterline, completely still, like she'd walked there without ever deciding to. "Claire," she blinked, snapping back like she was waking up from a dream. She had no memory of leaving the house. No memory of climbing into that well at all. Her clothes were soaked through, her hands were shaking, and she kept whispering the same thing, over and over, the whole way back inside. She just wants her mom to stay. She just wants her mom to stay. They left that same night. No packing, no plan, just Daniel, Claire, and Ethan in the car by 3 a.m., driving away from Miller Road for good. As they pulled out of the driveway, Claire looked back one last time. For half a second, she swears she saw a small figure standing in Ethan's window, watching them go. The next day, when they called their realtor to explain, they learned something that made the whole thing worse. In the past 10 years, 3 different families had lived in that house. Every one of them left suddenly, in the middle of the night, for reasons nobody could fully explain. One family left almost all their furniture behind. Another left the front door wide open, keys still in the lock. Weeks later, from their new place 2 towns over, Claire finally called Margaret to ask why she hadn't warned them. "I should have said more," Margaret admitted quietly. "But nobody ever believes it until it happens to them. That little girl isn't trying to hurt anyone. She's just looking for her mom. She doesn't understand that the woman she's looking for has been gone a very long time." To this day, the house is still standing at the end of Miller Road. And people who live nearby say that on quiet nights, if you walk past that property, you can still hear a little girl laughing, like she's still waiting for someone to come outside and play.